Thank you, Mr. President. Mr. President, I rise to support the very eloquent comments made by our distinguished colleague from Waterbury. Faced with overwhelming odds, this governor has made enormous efforts to negotiate a budget that she cannot enact, but must wait for the veto-proof majority to approve. Some believe that the governor has made a decision to compromise with no sincere effort from the other side to negotiate in the same fashion. She has put proposals on the table time and again in an effort at compromise. The other side, oftentimes, stubbornly time and again, have crossed their arms and refused to budge, preferring no action in stopping a huge, unsustainable spending increase as we've seen month after month after month. Instead, the style of negotiation is to embrace any new taxes on the table and refuse any tax reductions or spending cuts, something that nearly every business and family has been doing for the last 2 years. Nope, their plan is to borrow all shortfalls in revenues, tax what hasn't been taxed, or pass another tax or fee increase to a public that can't absorb it during these very difficult times. Today, the other side once again did not compromise. They did not agree to what I understood was going to be the elimination of the estate tax, or even the delay of school suspension and treating 17 and 18-year-old like juveniles that will burden every city and town, whether Democrat or Republican, with increased costs that they just simply can't afford right now. Instead, there are plans to shut down some prison cells, spend $500 million more than last year, increase nearly every fee in Connecticut, borrow over $2 billion, and drain the entire $1.4 billion, creating a $3 billion deficit in 2012. There is a perception by the public that Hartford's style of negotiating is to accept any new taxes on the table and the refusal to implement any tax reductions or any spending cuts. The General Assembly's plan to borrow all the shortfalls in revenues and let runaway spending continue into the future is a real perception out there. And now more than ever, we need to be very careful, just as the good senator from Waterbury has just stated, how we proceed with new tax proposals, as Connecticut's budget and tax decisions right now will determine the future of job prospects. Many of those job creators that we should understand are the target of this budget, the 26,000 that have been mentioned. I believe that the public is becoming increasingly tired of the massive government spending both in Washington and Hartford, because that perception is permeating right down into our own districts. They seem to be starting to get it and understand that they do not want the owners of the businesses they work for to move their jobs out of state. With that being said, faced with such lack of understanding of the underpinnings of our economy by those that the governor has been negotiating with at times, the governor really has done a remarkable job. So our vote possibly against this budget, I don't believe reflects the hard work that has been done over these last months and the frustration that everyone has endured over so many budget meetings and even sessions that we've had. As elected officials, our job is to listen to what our district taxpayers are thinking. That's our role. After all, they are actually footing this bill. And in the last month, I have actually asked my constituents what they think. And they are showing up in hundreds at town meetings and forums in all of my towns. Just this weekend, incomprehensibly, almost 800 people. I got to listen to 800 people. I don't think I've listened to that many people in a weekend in my entire 13 years up here. And the mood of that public is increasingly clear. They're angry and they're very suspicious. Yes, it is the national scene that's permeating onto our state scene, but a lot of what's happening here is reflective. There's a perception that Connecticut has a spending problem, not a revenue problem, and that without significant spending cuts, like any addiction, increasing taxes simply enables The habit to keep spending at an uncontrollable, unsustainable rate will continue. These are some of the things that were overwhelming in these meetings. They made a point to say that they do not want more government programs. They do not want any more government spending. They want us to stop. And they are increasingly tired of actions that enables the unsustainable habits of government special interest, or what they perceive as special interests. Increasingly, they do not like what their leaders in the General Assembly are doing. They're angrier than I've ever seen, and I have to tell you, quite frankly, possibly more than during the income tax year. I have found that my district voters and I are on the same page. They expect the state to make the same sacrifices they're making. By passing a structurally unsound budget, the majority is throwing up its hands and saying they are incapable of getting the job the public expects to be done right. This is going to be a pretty easy vote no for me to take. And I really sincerely hope that others around this circle will think about it a bit and try to put Connecticut first, the citizens, the rank and file people first, and will also vote no. Thank you, Mr. President.